teaching on the most difficult thing in God. And every time I think I've turned the corner, it gets even worse for me. Matter of fact, I just talked to one of my friends earlier this morning. You were talking on Sunday morning. And the more I talked to him, the more I began to realize how hard it is for us to really grasp and comprehend exactly what Jesus done. Because most people I talk to, they know Jesus came and died, but they don't know what he really died for. And what was necessary. Did he fulfill all the necessary things? I think sometimes we try to over-explain, overemphasize the things that we think we know versus the things that we really don't know. I had a guy call me this, hey, give us a break. He told me, he said, well, Brother Wilson, he said, I'll tell you what, I believe that in heaven there's going to be a great big temple. I said, okay. I said, I'm not here to fight you on anything you want to speculate about. But I said, the thing I get when I read the Bible, he doesn't really go into details and try to tell you what's going to happen after this. Because everything you're going to need, you need to get it here. All right? Everything, so it ain't going to really matter about my speculation on the future if I ain't got what I need now. All right? You can talk about, well, one of these days, I believe God's going to have me a mansion. Well, that's fine, but he didn't go through no whole lot of details talking about none of that. Because everything he done for you, you needed it right here and need to be using it right here. Somebody said, well, I'm going to wait till I go to heaven. The thing you need to realize, heaven has come to you. You have been born into the kingdom of heaven, right? So he said, well, where heaven at? Wherever Jesus is. If he ain't in you, then you don't know what heaven is. Because number one, that's why he said, the kingdom of heaven does not come by observation. You can't see it. He said, but that kingdom will dwell in your heart. A lot of times we need to just stand back, ask ourselves, do I feel like I'm living in heavenly places? He said, well, Brother Wilson, you ain't there yet. I said, you know what? You know what I know about people? No, I know about this here. I don't know nobody can tell me where there is. So if you don't know where there is, how would you know when you got there? Right now, I'm where I am because this is where there is. He said, wherever he is, there, you may be there also. So wherever there is, that's where he is. And that's where I am. It's where he is. So I'm not waiting. I ain't putting God on hold. I'm not putting him on a layaway plan. I'm not holding off on anything that he said was mine. Because God is not in the laboratory or in his workshop working on your blessing now. Every blessing he had for you, he already took care of that. Calvary was about you receiving the blessing of what he's already done. I know we sing those songs and we tell people, we love them testimonies where we say, I want to tell you how I overcame. You didn't overcome. You did not overcome. You know who overcame? He overcame. The reason why we can't see what he overcame in our life is because we're still trying to overcome what he's already overcame. Be of good cheer. Why? Because I have overcome the world. So now, even in, I think it's in, hit a senior moment. You know what our victory is? When we get through singing all the things that we thought we got victory over, you know what our victory is? My victory is my faith. Because I don't have no more victory than I can believe in the one who gave me the victory. He is my victory. He is the one who overcame for me. I couldn't overcome, so he came and overcame. That's why he tell you now, he that overcometh. Overcome what? What we got to overcome? The only thing that can set you back in God is you. If you can never get over yourself, you can get in him. But if you can't get out yourself, because really your real enemy is not the devil, it's you. Their evil heart of unbelief, he didn't blame that on the devil. That becomes my part, to believe him in what he said about me. All right? So my faith or my victory all hinge on my faith. Faith in what? Faith in me getting it over, getting it done? No. My faith is in him who said, I have overcome this. Whatever your problem is in your life, God is not working on it. If you can see him, you'll see how you overcame. They overcame the enemy, how? By the words. Now what testimony would that have been? Yeah, his testimony. They overcame the enemy. They overcame that through his testimony. That's what the book of Revelation is about. It's about Jesus showing you how victorious he was over everything that could keep you back. Death, hell, and the grave. But anyway, been trying to get this not just to you, because I don't just want to teach you something I don't believe. I don't just want to believe something because somebody said it. I want to believe it because I can experience it. I want to be able to say, look, and stand flat-footed and say, you know, there is a rest in God. I don't want to say that because I just read it in the Bible. I want to say that because, you know what, I found rest in God. And I will say again and again, it is the hardest journey I've ever been on in my life, because I didn't understand what rest was. I really could rest for a minute, but then I felt like God needed me to help him out just a little bit more. But one of the things that seem to be so prevalent in the Bible is how no matter what God would do, no sooner man put his hand to it, he just seemed to mess it up. Everything. Even today, he just messes with everything. If God give him a deliverer, they'll make the deliverer a God. If God use a stick, they make that stick a God. And we just keep going on and on and on, not realizing that there is a revelation of Jesus Christ. You need to have a revelation of Jesus Christ. Say that with me. I need a revelation of Jesus Christ. Now, we try to put the cart before the horse. Because what we try to do is that we try to tell you all the things that should help you get a better revelation of God. And all the things that we're trying to do to know God is works of the flesh. And so you can't know God through the flesh, because God knows no man after the flesh. But we put all of our energy on trying to correct flesh. We preach to flesh. You want to get a lot of amens? Preach about the flesh. The more you preach about the flesh, the more response you get from people in the flesh. But if you start preaching about things that are of the Spirit, they ain't got too many amens on that one. But if I started hollering, whoa, all you liars, yeah, amen. That's a flesh thing. But if I started preaching about the love of God, man, you want to make Christian people mad? They preach too much love, preaching too much love. How in the world could you preach too much love and you don't even understand it? The Bible said the length and the measurements of his love it's so astronomical, there's no height, there's no depth, there's no width, no length. So now how can I preach too much about it? But if I preach about peace, I never understood this. We talk about grace. I had someone call me on the phone and said, and I hate labels. I hate it when we have to label you anything other than a Christian just so that you can be excised out of the unity of the faith. We've always had it. If you came up with what we perceived as a new revelation of God, if I teach on end time, they will label me as being an end time preacher. If I preach on grace, they say, oh yeah, he's a grace preacher. Now, first thing you need to realize, you can't even preach Jesus without preaching grace. You know why? Because he is grace. So how can you preach about him without preaching grace? How can you preach about Jesus without preaching about peace? You know why? He is our peace. I can't preach about anything about Jesus without incorporating all these things we try to single out and sectarian out and make it look like, well, if you want to know about faith, you need to go here to the faith church. Anything that calls itself a church should have all the attributes of Christ. Any church that says they are a church of Jesus Christ needs to exemplify all of his attributes. You should not have to go to any certain church to receive grace. You shouldn't have to go to any special church to receive whatever. I don't care what you call it. Oh, that's a word church. You mean to tell me you got churches that are not word churches? Because last I read, all of them are supposed to be established upon his word. Huh? Oh, man. Oh, that's why them spirit-filled churches. You mean to tell me we got churches that's not? Huh? I mean, if you're in a church and you know the church ain't spirit-filled or don't believe in spirit-filled, it's not a church. Last I read, he said, I baptize all of them into one body by one spirit. So now, if my church, we don't believe in spirit-filled. Well, you may have your church, but you ain't believing in his church. And there's a whole lot difference in his church and our church. Matter of fact, it's a whole lot different in his real church than what we call church. See, we are doing church, and he wants somebody to be church. Yeah. We learn all the little things, the active things we do, and we call it church. All the stuff we do, we call church. That's not church. That's just activity we're doing. But to be the church is a different story. See, to be the church, you're not waiting on a piano player to make you happy. Or waiting for your favorite song so you can get your shout on. That's doing church. No. When you are the church, you got a song in your heart at all times. You're not waiting to praise him. You have become the very praise of God. You are praised everywhere you go. Why? Because you got church in you. You ain't waiting for some testimony service because you are the testimony of God. You're not waiting on anything. I'm waiting to get in the presence of God. You know what? Only reason why you're waiting to do it because you don't know you can live in it every day. Last I read, he said, I've made access for you through my flesh. You see what this morning I got up and I was rolling some things around in my head, or he was impressing me rolling some things in my head. And one of the things I had to come back and look at again was the high priest of God. The high priest and his job and what he had to do in his office to bring about the atonement for the people. And one of the things he began to show me again, brought back to my memory, is that the high priest of old, before he could even go in and do a sacrifice for the people, he had to first make one for himself. Because no matter how much he did for them, he wasn't good himself. So he had to make a sacrifice for himself and then take and make another sacrifice and take the blood of that sacrifice for the people. And one of the things he done, he went in with the blood, sprinkled it up on the mercy seat and everything, and then he came back out. Now, the only problem with that is this. He came back out because, number one, he wasn't qualified to stay. Because nothing he took in there was ever going to take care of the problem they had. It could let you out of jail on probation or trustee, but you still was a prisoner. You're still guilty. You're still bound. So the high priest would go in, do his little work, come out, and when he came out, no matter how many times when he came out, he still came out with sin. You know why? Because he was still one. Right? See, now you need to get a mental picture of this. Because a lot of times when we try to equate things to God, we use it such on a human level. This man went in, performed the rite, done the blood stuff, came back out, and still couldn't make anybody any better. All he could do was let God allow them to be trustees till next year on good behavior. Hope you didn't mess up between now and next year and get a rock concert going where it starts stoning you and killing you. You'd hope that you wouldn't do one of those death penalty kind of acts. But if you could last and stay here long enough for that high priest to go in, come back out, you was okay. But now here's Jesus. First of all, he didn't need to make a sacrifice for himself. All right? He didn't go into the holies of holies with blood of anybody else. He staked his own life on it. Mm-hmm. He staked his life on you being able to say today, I have life. He laid everything on the line, went in, offered the blood, and once he offered the blood, that's why it was a scripture in the Bible kept going over in my mind. He said, and when he returned the second time, he returned without sin unto salvation. The high priest of old could not say that. He'd go in and come out the second time, they still had sin. My faith in Jesus is so great now because I realize he's went in the presence of God for me. And he came back out without sin to represent everybody in the kingdom. Because if you knew the old covenant, the high priest was really the mediator of that covenant there. He was really the one who decided how the blessing's going to be meted out. He was the one who decided all that. Here Jesus comes, says, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this once and for all. I'm not going to have to do it again because what I'm doing is so good, I'm never going to have to die again. I'm never got to be buried again. Never. Because I'm doing this for you. One of the things you need to understand is that once you accept that, once you accept him, now you're on your way to living out. Instead of working towards that, living out of that. A lot of people is working to go to heaven instead of working from heaven. You want me to say it real slow again? Let me say it real slow. So many people go to church today working to go to heaven. But what Jesus came to do is show you how to work from heaven. Not work to get there. We have become heirs of God. You know what that means? Whatever is his, it becomes yours. Does heaven belong to God? Then it belongs to you. Why? Because I have become an heir of God, and I'm a joint heir of Jesus Christ. Don't cheat Jesus out of all he went through to give you the peace, the joy, and the righteousness, the preserving, the keeping, the helping, all the things he died to give you, all these things. He done it all that you might have everything that he fought for that you couldn't win. Everything that you tried to fight for to win, he already won it for you. Most of the time, that's hard to believe because most of the time what we do, we don't get wrapped up in Jesus, we get wrapped up in ourselves. You know how great my God is most of the time? Is how great I can get him in my mind. If I limit him, like, yeah, how many of y'all have impossible situations you ever have? Don't say nothing, no. And one of the hardest things in life is when you're pressed into that what we call the impossibility. A lot of times we can deal with a lot of stuff as long as we can handle it. Right? Now, we don't have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, we be singing Jesus all the way. And the reason why we're singing in Jesus all the way is because the Jesus we have is as small as our thinking. And as long as it's going good, Jesus is blessed. Right? We're doing real good, Jesus blessing. How many of you know Jesus is blessing even when it ain't going good? Huh? His blessing doesn't stop at all. But what we have a concept, because we're always in the mindset, I need to work so I can get rewarded. And we're looking for a reward, and really the greatest reward, and most of the time when we look for a reward, guess what the reward we were looking come from earth. We want some kind of earthly reward so that we can shout about it on earth. And here God wants to deposit in you all the heavenly riches that you cannot see or buy at Walmart. I see most people find they couldn't get it at Kmart because they went out of business. After a while, you're going to find you can't get it at Walmart. And they're going to be out of business. So he's not asking you to work for it. You know, I feel like it's almost like being a parent. You have kids. How many of y'all had kids and put them to work when they was still trying to suck milk in the bottle? How many of y'all try to make them earn their supper every day? Huh? How many of y'all kids ate even when they were lazy? How many of y'all sent your kids to bed hungry at night because they didn't clean their room? There's certain things about life that no matter how bad they were, you still done what was necessary for their existence. No matter what that was. You done what was necessary for them to survive. And now we get God, somehow know when it comes to God, who can do abundantly above all that we could ask or think, that he becomes real limited. He becomes real limited. One lady told me she had a daughter. Car got repossessed, so she went and got it out for her. Said that she took all her daughter's money from then on and told her from now on, I'm going to give you your money. You know. Well, here's the thing. In God, you may have messed up some of your inheritance, but he still got more that you ain't even experienced yet. You remember the story about the prodigal son? That's a good story. That's one of the best stories in the Bible because it's got so many twists on it, it just keeps blowing my mind every time I look at it. Here was two boys in the daddy's house. Here was one very dedicated kind of sons every father wants. Every father wants that kind of son that's dedicated, can do some stuff, you know, help around the house, you know, take care of some things for him. But he got that young boy. Say, that young boy. And it's, you know, really it's the truth because it seems like, I ain't lying now. If you're the oldest, you got taxed more. When you're younger, you get away with a lot more. Because by the time they done put up with them old ones, they so tired by the time they get to you, they ain't got the energy to deal with you as but hard. Okay? So that seemed like that baby boy was spoiled. Seemed like it. But it seemed like he did have a relationship with his daddy, though. Because he had no problem going in and telling his dad, hey, Dad, go ahead and write me out that check. You know, the one you're going to give me when you die. Just go on and give it to me now. I'm going to take mine right now. I'm going to give me that. Well, see, he took what was supposed to be his share, and he goes out into a far country. And how many of you know that food and money depart company soon? Didn't say how long he was there, but evidently it didn't take him long. I guess like one income tax check. No matter how big they are, they're gone in about 2 weeks. So here he finds himself broke, destitute, no money. And how many of you know the world we live in, when you don't have no money, you ain't got too many friends. You know, the Bible tell you all these stories. You have to sometimes read and see that. He didn't have no friends, so he headed back home. He's going back home. Now, if God would have given him everything, then he wouldn't have had nothing. But what God shows me in that story is that even when you done used up everything you thought you had, he still got even some more things you ain't yet experienced. This son comes back. What does the father do? You mean to tell me he sent that boy out without a ring? Huh? No, I'm saying, no, he sent the boy out. Look what he had for the boy when he came back. But he sent him out without that ring. And I can tell you why. You see, it's not just to have the things of the Father, but it's to have the heart of the Father that really matters. And I think when he came back, because first of all, I think he had a better relationship than the one out in the barn. Because most of the barn, the one that stayed, the elder brother that stayed, all he was concerned about was just serving. And a lot of times when we get to serving, we forget about relationship. I can tell you just case in point. Early on when I started ministering the Word of God, I was more concerned about my delivery. I was more concerned about me getting a message. I was more concerned about that than me having a relationship with God. I was more concerned about me getting my stuff together than me getting together with him. Don't get me wrong, I didn't get down and try to get messages without including him, but I was more concerned about after I got it, how was I going to look? And there's a big difference in how I'm going to look than what he's trying to show. But I was more in tune with what I was doing than building a relationship with God. Matter of fact, I felt like if I quit, the whole thing of God was going to crumble. That's what I felt. God, you need me. You got to have me. Now, we don't say it like that. But we think like that. And so our actions come out. Well, if I don't do this, what about if I don't do this? You know, we started feeling bad, man, I think I should have witnessed to them. And then we beat ourselves up over that. And I didn't witness to them. And then, you know what's really bad is that you had a conversation with somebody and then they come up and you didn't say nothing about Jesus. And then next day you find out they're dead. Then you beat yourself up. I should have told them, man, I had a chance to tell them about Jesus. I didn't tell them about Jesus. So we beat ourselves up over that because we felt like we missed an opportunity. But hearing God is about growing. It's always about growing. Growing in faith. Growing in relationship. You trying to serve God doesn't mean you got a relationship with God. Here we go. Said, wait a minute, Brother Wilson, you telling me I'm trying to serve God and I don't have a relationship. Most of the people in the Bible that was trying to serve never created a relationship. Case in point, Genesis. You heard of Cain and Abel? Don't you think Cain was thinking that the stuff he was doing, growing, served a better purpose than an animal? Can you see where he felt like what I'm trying to give God is better than what God is asking for? It's the same thing today. We're still trying to give God something that's better than what he's already given us. You can't improve on his righteousness. You can't improve on his holiness. You can't make a new one. You can't get it better than what he's already given you. But if I don't know that, then I'm going to go about, just like the Bible says, establish my own righteousness, which is nothing other than self-righteousness. Self-righteousness is not God's righteousness, because if you get God's righteousness, it has to come by faith. You have to believe to get righteous. By faith, Abel offered a more excellent. How much weeding did he have to do for that sacrifice? How much blood did he have to grow? None. And I can understand what we do means so much to us. I can see Cain out there now digging around his cabbage and trying to get the best looking strawberries, and then to tell God, look what I've done, so you ought to accept this because I did my best. Let me tell you something. After you've done your best, how you think that measure up? Huh? Your best, on your best day. How does that measure up with what the perfect done for you? How do you improve upon a perfect sacrifice? What could you add to it without messing it up? Nothing. But unless I believe that sacrifice was perfect, then I'm going to go about trying to offer something else instead of receiving what's already there. You got quiet. Do you want me to back up a little bit? Okay. See, most of the things we do, we believe about Jesus without ever believing in Jesus. Matter of fact, people can tell us anything about Jesus and we'll jump all on that. But believing about Jesus is not the same as believing in Jesus. Because when I start believing in Jesus, I'm believing in everything he said he done. Right? So when I start believing in him, I already know. And now, don't get me wrong, most people get scared when I say this kind of stuff because they wouldn't know what to do unless they had a law to tell them what to do. Because they don't believe or trust in what the Spirit of God can do through you if you will allow it. All right? The Spirit, the Holy Ghost in you is the Spirit of righteousness. It is the Spirit of peace. It is the Spirit of joy. It's the Spirit of Christ. Everything Christ is, guess what he done? He deposited that in you. Okay? I'm not waiting on Jesus to come if he's already deposited his Spirit in me. Guess what? Everything Jesus is going to be in me. And so instead of me cultivating a nature that he cannot accept, I need to cultivate the Spirit of God in my life. But it becomes kind of scary because the Spirit does not see the world as you see it. My eyes allow me to see so many things that's unfinished. But if I could look in the Spirit, I will see that it's already done. Then when I see it in the Holy Ghost, my prayer will begin to change about every situation. Instead of me putting God on notice that he needs to start fixing some stuff, if I can get my spirit right, I can see what, in the Spirit, he's already fixing things. And I started walking in what he's showing me. Does it mean my world around me changed? It may not even change. But the fact of the matter is that but I've seen him. And he is my change. Because at the end of the day, at the end of everybody's walk, he is the first Alpha and Omega. And you in between. But you're not going to change his position. That's why he said the work, good work that I have began in you, who's going to finish it? Now tell the truth now. Do you believe he's going to finish it or are you trying to finish it? Huh? Tell the truth now. Now tell the truth now. But I know he is, but we, in our mind, we really don't believe that. You understand? We don't believe that. That's why we up and down, bipolar in the Holy Ghost. That's why we started thinking sometimes, I ain't going to make it. If God don't come through, I don't know what I'm going to do. Please. No. I see him as my beginning, and he's my end. And I already seen what he said about the end. And I read in the end some things that really got me excited in the between. Because his end becomes mine. His beginning became mine, so his end becomes mine. And the last I read, he got up with just a little bit of power. Ah! You believe it? Got up what? You know, and I ain't trying to be funny, but isn't it strange how much we know and yet we can't experience? You know what I'm saying? We know, well, we believe he got up with all power. We believe he got up with all power until somebody like Kim Jong-un come along. Okay. We believe he got up with all power until President Trump became president. Oh, man, I can't believe he got elected. I can't believe this. Let me tell you something. The powers that be, the Bible says they are ordained of who? So what you can't believe doesn't change the fact that he is still, and Jesus is still the beginning, and he's still going to be the end. And so my life does not consist on who's in the White House. All right? Am I concerned? Possibly so, because I do want to live in peace in this present world. But am I so concerned that I'm going to get on Facebook, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff, and tweet out all kind of junk about, you know, we got an ignorant president and all kind of crazy stuff like people be doing? I can't do that. I wouldn't even do it if I was against it. I don't even clap for him because I'm for him. I think I told one lady here not too long ago, because she asked me what was I going to do about a certain man's birthday. I told him, you know, really, to be honest with you, I don't really worship dead people. I really don't. I mean, everybody's got to have a hero, I guess. But I got mine already. I ain't got but one. Last I read, you can have all the heroes in the world, but none of them going to top the hero I got. Huh? Oh, to be like Jesus. I ain't had not, even the greatest boxer of all time still laying down in the ground. He ain't getting up saying, I got all power. Okay, so what am I saying? It is imperative that we begin to realize, before you want to know everything else, before you want to know things that's not even important, is God for the zodiac. Is God for astronomers. Is God for science. Forget all that. Learn, get Jesus first. If you get him first, you won't have as many questions as you have right now. Because how many of you know where the answer lies? Where is the answer to all of man's problems? Where is the answer to all your dilemmas? So why are we trying to find it elsewhere? If Jesus is the answer, let him be the answer. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't like the way he answered my questions. Do we? We don't like the way he answered our questions. We don't like the way he answered our prayers. Because he never answers prayers like I want him to. He'll do just the opposite of what I'm asking. If I ask him to make me rich, I'll get poor. See, y'all laughing, but I don't tell you this. You know why? Because, see, my concept of being rich is different than his. See, I'm praying for riches, and he knows that the riches I'm praying for ain't going to make me rich. So I'm praying for one thing, and I'm waiting for a corner to turn and, you know, see my name blinking on them little lights says Wilson. Mega million winner. $546 million. Now, wouldn't you believe you was blessed? Tell the truth. And if you didn't feel like you was blessed and you felt like you may have sinned, you probably pay that one off, wouldn't you? You do something good, kind of cover that up, would you? But see, the thing about it, you'll pray, God, Lord, make me rich. And then he'll turn around and make you poor. Because he said in his word, it's the poor of this world that's rich in faith. Wow. God, make me poor. Got to use that reverse psychology on it. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not, when I say, see, we have measurements of poor and rich. His measurement between being poor and rich has nothing to do with your possessions. When we measure humanly how rich we are, we got a little counter that's counting. But if you don't have enough calculation or a calculator that can count the blessings of God that can enrich your soul. Because the problem today is not how rich you are monetarily, but the real key is how rich you are in God. You know, how you spending spiritual currency. You know, where are you spending your spiritual currency at? Because you can't spend it no place else but in heavenly places. And it may not be as much fun, and you may not have as much excitement trying to spend spiritual currency anywhere else on earth. It don't work. That's why people, when you talk about the joy of God, we usually are looking for something that attacks our emotions, humanly speaking, that makes us real happy. But see, here God is trying to tell you that, you know, my joy is not like that. My joy is joy in midst of storms. Peace is midst of storms. You're rich. The more richer you are in those things, the less likely you're going to be harmed by the stuff around you. But until we begin to realize how rich we are, we can never experience the true riches of God. And the true riches of God, you can't go buy it. Do we like money? Yeah, yes we do. No, I ain't seen nobody got that saved yet. I haven't seen not one person got so saved is that all of a sudden they said, well, I'll just take all my money. Just when you see that happen, you're going to know, man, God is doing some things today. Woo-wee! Man, we better just go on and shout and just throw money everywhere. This stuff always makes me laugh sometimes because the show we put on sometimes trying to convince the world how great God is in our life. He ain't got to do them touch one little old small possession of ours, and he ain't great no more. Because all we can see is that we got, man, I worked hard for this. But you ain't seen how hard he worked for you. Ain't that something? We got to never tell God how hard we work for what we got. Because we've never seen how hard he worked to get you where you are. We've never seen it. We don't have no idea how invested God was in us to give us what he tried to give us or given us. And all we can look at is our human efforts and get upset when our human efforts don't get up to where we want them to be. Because the real riches of God is found in finding contentment in God. And if you ain't content in God, you'll never be rich in God. Because he that is faithful in the little, he going to make you ruler over many, much. Why? Because he realized one thing, when you thought you didn't have it, but you still got excited because you had him. He was my true riches. If I didn't have nothing else in this world, if I didn't have not one thing, not one bank account, please, God always remind me I still got you. That's the most important thing. If you ain't got him, I don't care what you got. You really ain't got too much of nothing. Because everything you got ain't going to last no way. Ain't nothing you can put on earth. Ain't nothing you can put on your back. Ain't nothing you can live in. Ain't nothing you can travel in. Ain't no job. None of these things is ever going to last. They all dissipate with time. But here Jesus said, lo, I am with you. When you don't have a job, I'm with you. When you're all by yourself, guess what? I'm going to be with you. When you go through the flood, when you go through the fire, guess where I'm going to be? I'm going to be with you. Lo, I'm with you always. It ain't going to get too rough for God. It'll never get too rough in your life for God. God, I don't care how bad your life gets, God ain't going to pack up and leave. Hello? It may get so bad you can't stand it, but I bet you God ain't going to have a problem. He'll still be. Still telling you, lo, I'm with you always, even unto the end of the world. And that world may come to an end, but he's still with you even after the end of the world. Even after all that, God is still with you. Amen. Some people think God come in to rent a little real estate. We think God came in to rent a little apartment in your heart. You know how you do. You get them big houses, you rent out a little spot, so it don't cost you nothing to stay there. We got duplexes. We got a little compartment for God. He ain't rule over the whole house now. I said, we ain't going to let him rule the whole house, but we do have an apartment for him. And this is the reason why a lot of people, when they get upset with God, they want to change, give him an eviction notice. So God didn't get in the leasing business to come and rent your apartment. See, you was already on a garbage pile, so what he done, he bought the whole garbage pile, paid for the whole house. Every part of you belonged to him. Every part, even down to the last hair on my head, it's his. He paid for it. He paid what you couldn't pay and would never be able to pay. No, if you lived 1,000, 10,000 years, you still can't pay the price he's already paid for you one time. One time. He offered himself one time to pay for everything that you'll ever need in this life and the next life to come. One time. One time. And yet you'll come and say, I believe Jesus died for my sin. And then turn around and talk yourself out of him, a payment plan he's already got. There ain't no more planning. Ain't no more payments. Ain't no other sacrifice. No other blood. None. I can't look good enough for him. I can't look pretty enough for him. I can't do none of that. But if I will allow the one who bought me, invest in me everything he said he bought for me in this purchase. When he redeemed me to something. I was bought with a price, and I have been created for his pleasure and his purpose. Now, does that mean I ain't going to have no fun sometime? I don't know, but when God started getting pleasure, we ain't happy. Only time we're happy is when we're getting pleasure. Because we can't see God getting pleasure out of something we don't been through, right? How could God be getting pleasure just like he did with Job? You think God wasn't having a good time? He was having a great time. I mean, if you ever want your kid to act up and really act out of the ordinary, just tell them how great they are. But what's bad is when you don't tell them how great they are, and then they fall into some places. Sometimes they don't know how to get out of because you never told them they could be great. You know. So here's Job. God says, want to have some fun today. He was the one that called attention to Job. He was the one, said, hey, asked the devil, where you been, Doc? He said, man, I've been going up and down, man. I've been up and down through the earth, to and fro, and checking things out. Well, God said, as you've been going to and fro, have you seen my boy Job? Have you checked him out? Yeah. And see, here what it tells me is that even your enemy knows who you belong to, even when you don't know who you belong to. You know that? He already knows who belongs to God and who don't. He knows that. He knew when Jesus came and said, you have come to torment us before time. He knew who he was. They ain't crazy like we are. So here he said, have you considered? He said, yeah. I spied him out. I checked him out. I saw some things, though. He said, what really gets me excited, the fact is that the devil recognized. He said, I seen him. He said, but I also noticed that you had a hedge around him. See, most people don't know how protected they are. We think just because we got ADT in the front yard, we think, we got ADT in the front yard, that little old sign that keeps away all the crooks, supposedly, is that we are protected. There is an invisible protection. You don't see it. I can't see it. But the enemy of my soul, he knows that certain things may come towards me or to me that can't touch me. That protection is there. Now, but if God so chooses to have even more fun, because a lot of times when we go through great times, we brag about the great times. But very few people ever brag about how good God was in bad times until after they come through it. It looks better. But it don't look good when you're in it. So here, God says, I'm going to have some fun. So I'll tell you what there, Mr. Devil, I am going to remove that hedge. And I'm going to allow you to do everything that you can to him, except you can't take his life. You can't take his life. I don't know how many times I've read where people talk about devil going to take your life. Devil can't take this life here that I have right now because this life has been paid for. And he'd had to get a better price for my life than Jesus had. And Jesus had the only price that could be paid to give me my life. So, no, I'm not fearing that. But what happens a lot of times is that when you are fully tested by that outside force that comes in like a flood and comes in and tear up everything and just rip up everything, and all of a sudden you started thinking, maybe God didn't do what he said he's going to do. Maybe God did leave me. Because the one thing we fight in God more than anything is the fact, does God live with you all the time? Because we have a church mentality that says, when I want God, I go to church. I don't come to church to get God. I come to church because he's already here in the church. He's already with me. So I'm not coming to church. I'm glad we can gather in his name. I'm glad we can share word and songs and praises. I'm glad we can do all that, but I didn't come here to get God. When I came this morning, he came with me. Matter of fact, I laid down last night and gave him a rest. I told him when I laid down last night, Lord, I'm going to lay down. I ain't going to worry while I'm sleeping. So you can go ahead and rest. I know y'all laughing, man. Because some of y'all got them worry gods. They won't let you sleep. And the more you worry about it, you think it makes God work better. Right? Right? I mean, don't say nothing. No, I know. See, we feel if we worry enough about it, somehow that make God works better. If you ever want God to do something in your life, quit worrying about it. Only thing worry does is telling God, I don't trust you. Yeah, I don't believe you. See, so, if you really want to let God rest in your life, let him rest so you can rest. You rest by not trying to live in worry. I'm not going to live in worry. I have found out one thing. The older I get now, I bought nothing into this world. I ain't taking none out. And what would profit me if I gained the whole world and then didn't get what God gave me for my soul and lose it? Everything he done was for the salvation of my soul. What would it look like? And he tried to give it to me, but I worried myself to death, trying to get my soulish emotions together, when all the time he was trying to work on the end of the Spirit to show me in my soul that you have everything to make your soul happy, because I've restored it. I've made it new again. And if you feed it from the right source, you will have less problems. You're not going to feast on worry and then come up with faith. You're not going to eat troubles and then come out with triumphs. You're not going to do that. Matter of fact, one of the things Jesus had to show them after he got up, remember how the disciples was on the ship fishing the second time. Jesus doesn't resurrected. He's gone, seems like he's out of the picture. And when Jesus is out of the picture, we have got to go back to what we know is best. We got to go back to that human default. I know how to help myself, right? I know how to help myself. You know what Pete said after Jesus got up and left, and I don't know what's happening. And Pete and them got on up and said, well, back to the drawing board, going back fishing. And immediately went back to do what they always done. Because that's really where they found Jesus the first time. That's what they were doing. And so when all else failed, they went back to do what they always done. And guess where Jesus met them? Fishing boat again. Only this time. Here he brings back, see, let me say this. A lot of things in the Bible we don't understand and how he pieces together. One of the things about those fishermen they had always been afraid of, one of the greatest fears of a fisherman is that he don't catch no fish. When his whole livelihood hinged upon him catching fish to survive, anything that you have your whole life invested in can become a fear to you. If your whole life consisted of a job or whatever, if something happened, you always fear for that. You hear something come down on the news. They're going to be laying off 1,000 people at Caterpillar. You working at Caterpillar, guess what you're worried about? Am I going to get laid off? Am I going to get laid off? Well, so you always default back to human expectations. And so when Jesus come, he had to make sure that the thing that you fear, you can consume it. That's why he put fish on the fire. Because fish in the Hebrew means fear. So the first meal he needed to eat with them, because they had went back to where they'd been. The first thing, and the reason they went back to fishing was because of the fear. So he needed to let them eat, consume that so they can get over that. So that then he can say later on, for God has not given you the spirit of fear, power, love, and going crazy, driving me crazy. What is a sound mind? See, even sometimes when we think we got a sound mind, we're about as crazy as all get out. But anyway, when he said God gave you a sound mind, you got to remember again, God is not working through your intellect to give you a sound mind. Your sound mind is not based upon the fact so you can still add 1 + 1 is 2. That's not necessarily the sound mind that he's talking about. Sometimes we think, well, I got enough sense to pay my bills. I got enough sense. Well, no, that's common to every man. He wants to give you a real sound mind, a sound mind with peace in it. That's a sound mind. And a lot of stuff we call sound mind, it don't even make sense. If you step back and look at it, it really don't make sense at all. But it's a sound mind to us because we have lived that sameness for so long, is that it's like what we call common sense. And so we take common sense and we equate that to be a sound mind. If you know how to walk down a sidewalk chewing bubble gum, you got a sound mind. But now, his sound mind is a little bit different than the sound mind that I would attribute to myself. As a human being, I would say I'm pretty sound. I would say I'm not the brightest bulb in the cluster or the sharpest pencil in the bunch, but I believe I got a sound mind. But now, you got to understand, he did not give us a spirit of fear, power, love, and a sound mind. Now, power and love, it's going to be a part of the sound mind. Do you know mental health is about loving? Your mental health is determined on how much love you receive. Do you know that? Yeah. Your mental health. You take abused kids. They usually will have some mental disposition. I'm talking about abused kids. I'm talking about kids that's been abused. Sometimes those kids are hard to reach because they've never had their mental health dealt with from the standpoint of love. So when you talk about God giving you a sound mind, you don't have a sound mind if you still hate your enemy. Could you? No. Now, I'll tell you what now, it will make common sense if I did. Right? It will make a lot of, I could go and tell you, well, man, they did this to me, and you would tell me, I don't blame you, because you know why? That's common sense. But God says, I didn't come to give you common sense. You already had that. And that common sense didn't help you out at all. So I'm not trying to give you common sense. I'm trying to give you a sound mind. What kind of mind was that? Let this mind. Huh? Let what now? But see, are we trying to let that mind work, or are we trying to let this other mind work that we got common sense and try to call it a sound mind? Because his mind is different now. He don't think like you do. Right? So what he would call a sound mind, we almost call you crazy. That's why Paul said, I have become a fool for Christ's sake. Because what you see me doing is so it ain't common sense. You don't see a man getting beat up, had the devil, throw it on a junk pile, and then get back up and go in there and try to make the people apologize. Generally, if they beat you up that bad and you can get away, you getting away. Far away as you can get, you running. Not Paul. No. They beat him up, took him outside the city, and he had the audacity. Come on back in there and start preaching again. Now that is not a sound mind. Huh? Is that sound? No. But see, what I'm telling you now is that a lot of things you call a sound mind ain't even sound. Because he ain't talking about what you can come up with. He's talking about the same mind he said should be in you that was in Christ Jesus. That's a sound mind. He came. He never was worried about nothing. He didn't worry about taxes. None of that stuff. Stuff to get us down. The Son of Man had nowhere. Was he worried? Did you read where he got shook over that? You didn't read where he said, I'm homeless, pushing a cart. We'll work for food? No. But yet he had no place to lay his head. And yet every day he didn't miss not one day. He had a sound mind. You know why he had a sound mind? Because he said this, and I'm going to let you go. I do always those things that I see my Father do. You know why you don't have a sound mind like he had? Because you ain't seen some things in a while that the Father's got for you. And so you're going crazy trying to figure out stuff that's already been figured out for you. But instead, you're working overtime, trying to make sense of something that ain't going to make sense when you get through trying to make sense out of it. It's because he's already made the sense that you need a sound mind. No, it's time y'all to lay down at night and sleep and let your Jesus in you sleep with you. Don't wake him up again for your worry. Huh? Because God is not worried. Shake hands with someone and be friendly. God let you go.